beneath Butte, Montana, sits a mine so vast, it swallowed part of a city and left behind a lake no one can safely touch. A century ago, this same hill was alive with miners, railroads, smoke, and money. Butte was one of America's greatest copper cities. Today, the mines are mostly silent. In their place remains toxic water, abandoned structures, and the unanswered cost of America's copper boom. Before copper changed everything, this was open high country. Mountains, grasslands, streams, and land traveled by indigenous communities. Long before mining companies arrived, native people knew this region as part of a larger living landscape, not simply a source of minerals. In the 1860s and 1870s, prospectors came looking for gold and silver. At first, Butte was just another rough mining camp. But beneath the hill was something more valuable than gold: enormous deposits of copper, silver, zinc, and other minerals. By the late 19th century, Butte's muddy streets were filling with miners, merchants, gamblers, and people hoping to strike it rich. Then America entered the electric age. Suddenly, copper was no longer just another metal. It became the wire that powered the modern world. Electric lights, telephones, telegraphs, and streetcars all depended on copper. Few places on Earth had more of it than Butte. The hill became a giant underground maze. Shaft after shaft went deeper, following copper veins beneath the growing city. Butte was not simply built beside mines. It was built directly on top of them. One man who saw Butte's potential was Marcus Daly, an Irish immigrant who became one of America's most powerful mining figures. Daly's anaconda interests helped turn Butte copper into a national industrial force. Daly was not alone. William Andrews Clark and F. Augustus Heinze joined the fight to control Butte's copper wealth. The Copper Kings fought through lawsuits, political influence, newspapers, and ruthless competition for control of the hill. By 1900, Butte had become one of the most important mining cities in the world. Workers came from Ireland, Italy, Finland, Serbia, China, and many other places. Butte became one of the West's most diverse cities. For the men underground, life was brutal. Shifts were long, the air could be deadly, and every trip down the shaft carried danger. Miners descended thousands of feet beneath the surface into a world of darkness, blasting powder, heat, and unstable rock. They created Butte's wealth, but they received only a fraction of the fortune their labor pulled from the mountain. Above ground, copper fortunes built mansions, banks, theaters, hotels, and political power. At its peak, Butte offered theaters, opera, newspapers, and nightlife. This remote Montana city felt connected to the world. People began calling Butte the richest hill on Earth. It was not just a slogan. Copper from this city helped build modern America. Below Butte, the work was dangerous from the moment a miner stepped into the cage and disappeared underground. Men drilled through solid rock, blasted ore loose with explosives, and worked for hours in heat, noise, dust, and poor air. Every shift carried risk: cave-ins, fires, explosions, falling rock, poisonous gases, and the slow damage caused by mine dust. Because the danger was so constant, Butte's miners built some of the strongest labor organizations in the American West. They fought for better wages, shorter hours, and safer conditions. But company power in Butte was enormous. On June 8, 1917, that danger became catastrophe at the Granite Mountain and Speculator Mine. A fire started underground. Smoke and carbon monoxide spread rapidly through the maze of connected mine workings. Men struggled to find escape routes in darkness and toxic smoke. Some reached the surface. Many never made it out. 168 miners died. It remains one of the deadliest hard rock mining disasters in American history. The disaster devastated Butte. Across the city, families lost fathers, sons, husbands, brothers, and friends. The tragedy exposed the human cost behind Butte's wealth and intensified anger toward the companies. The richest hill on earth was also one of the most dangerous places in America to earn a living. During World War I, copper became even more valuable. America needed it for weapons, communications, and electrical systems. The demand for copper kept the mines running, but it also increased pressure on workers to produce more, faster, and at greater risk. By this time, the battles among the copper kings were giving way to something even more powerful: corporate control. The Anaconda Company became the dominant force in Montana. Its influence reached far beyond Butte's mine shafts. Anaconda controlled mines, smelters, railroads, newspapers, and political influence. Many Montanans simply called it the company. Butte's prosperity was never guaranteed. When copper prices fell, the city felt it immediately. For mining families, a downturn meant layoffs, debt, uncertainty, and sometimes leaving Butte altogether. World War II brought another surge. Copper from Butte once again became part of America's military and industrial power. After the war, mining still defined Butte, but the old underground mines were becoming more expensive to operate. Companies turned toward open-pit mining, a cheaper way to extract lower-grade ore on a massive scale. In 1955, the Berkeley pit opened. Instead of following copper underground, the industry began removing the mountain from above. The Berkeley pit would become more than a mine. It would become the defining scar on Butte's landscape. At its peak, the Berkeley pit was an industrial giant. Its machinery could move mountains, because that was exactly what it was doing. Open-pit mining allowed companies to process enormous amounts of lower-grade ore that underground methods could no longer profitably reach. But the pit did not grow in isolation. It expanded closer and closer to neighborhoods where Butte families had lived for generations. As the mine expanded, parts of Butte were demolished. Streets, homes, and memories disappeared beneath the industrial project. Blasting became routine. The ground shook. Dust traveled through the air, and the mine's presence could be felt throughout the city. Yet for many families, mining remained a source of pride. The job was hard, but it provided wages and a sense of belonging. In Butte, mining was often a family tradition. Fathers and sons worked to the same hill, sometimes even the same shift. But beneath the economic success, the environmental damage was becoming impossible to ignore. Decades of mining produced vast piles of waste rock and tailings that could release harmful metals into soil and water. When sulfide minerals meet air and water, they can create acid mine drainage, water capable of carrying toxic metals through the environment. By the 1970s, residents, scientists, and environmental groups were raising urgent questions about what mining had done to Butte's land and water. But even then, few people understood that the greatest environmental crisis in Butte's history was still ahead. By the late 1970s, copper prices were unstable, operating costs were rising, and Butte's mining system was under severe pressure. In 1977, Atlantic Richfield Company, better known as ARCO, acquired the Anaconda Company. For workers, corporate decisions made far away could determine whether their jobs, homes, and neighborhoods had a future. In 1982, mining at the Berkeley pit stopped. pumps that had kept groundwater out of the mine were shut down. Once pumping ended, groundwater began filling the pit. The abandoned mine slowly became a lake of acidic, metal-laden water. The Berkeley Pit Lake is not natural. It is one of the clearest symbols of industrial mining's environmental aftermath. When the mines closed, Butte lost thousands of jobs over time. Businesses suffered, families left, and the city entered a painful decline. Many residents moved away in search of work. The population fell, and once busy neighborhoods became quieter than anyone imagined. The headframes remained, silent monuments to a city that had once helped electrify America. For former miners and their families, the shutdown was not abstract. It was personal, immediate, and devastating. Butte now faced two enormous challenges: rebuilding an economy after mining and living with a contaminated landscape. The crisis drew federal attention. Butte was about to become one of the largest environmental cleanup stories in America. In 1983, the Butte area became part of a federal Superfund cleanup effort. The problem was larger than one pit. Mine waste and contaminated water affected land, groundwater, and sections of Silverbow Creek. Cleanup efforts included removing contaminated materials, restoring waterways, treating water, and protecting communities downstream. Monitoring is critical because Berkeley pit water continues to rise and could threaten connected groundwater systems. Today, treatment systems pump and process contaminated water to reduce the risk of it spreading beyond the pit. In 1995, thousands of migrating snow geese landed on Berkeley Pit. Large numbers died after exposure to its toxic water. Since then, managers have used sound devices, hazing systems, and monitoring to keep birds away from the dangerous water. The pit is fenced, monitored, and managed, but it remains a reminder that environmental damage can outlast the industry that created it. For Butte residents, the pit is not a distant problem. It sits beside the city, part of the daily view and local identity. Many longtime residents carry complicated feelings: pride in the work, grief over the losses, and frustration about what was left behind. Butte's story is not simply one of pollution or decline. It is also the story of workers, families, immigrants, and survival. And even after the mines closed, Butte refused to disappear. Today, Butte is working to reinvent itself while preserving one of America's most remarkable industrial landscapes. Much of uptown Butte survived. Its streets preserve the architecture of a city that once boomed with copper money. The headframes that once carried miners underground are now landmarks, visible reminders of the industry that shaped the city. Museums and local historians are preserving stories that might otherwise disappear. The stories of workers, not just wealthy owners. Butte is also looking toward new generations: students, entrepreneurs, artists, and residents building a future beyond copper. Small businesses and local institutions now play a larger role in Butte's economy, even as the city lives with mining's legacy. Butte's traditions remain strong. Its St. Patrick's Day celebration, shaped by Irish heritage, is among the best known in the West. Music, bars, sports, and neighborhood gatherings still reflect the toughness and close-knit culture forged during the mining years. Butte also remembers those who paid the highest price, from miners killed underground to families shaped by industrial hardship. Restoration projects have improved parts of the watershed, but cleanup is a long-term commitment, not a quick repair. In Butte, recovery often exists beside damage. Green restoration zones can sit only a short distance from mining scars. That contrast defines Butte today, a city carrying a heavy past while trying to decide what comes next. To understand Butte, you have to understand what copper meant to America. It helped connect the country in the age of electricity. Copper carried electricity through wires, connected telephones, powered factories, and transformed everyday life across the United States. Every new electric system increased demand, and for decades, Butte stood at the center of that transformation. Butte's copper traveled far beyond Montana. It entered national markets, global trade networks, and the infrastructure of modern life. Butte revealed a darker American pattern. Enormous wealth could be created in one place, while workers remained vulnerable. The copper itself was valuable, but the true engine of Butte was human labor. Dangerous, skilled, and often taken for granted. The city became a powerful symbol of labor struggle, showing how workers fought for dignity, safety, and a fair share of wealth. Butte also became a warning. When extraction ends, the costs do not always end with it. Across America, communities built around mining, oil, timber, and factories face the same question. Who pays when the boom is over? Butte's story is bigger than Montana. It is part of the American story of industry, prosperity, decline, and environmental responsibility. The metal that made Butte rich helped power a nation, yet the place it came from was left to carry much of the burden. That is the central contradiction of Butte, a city that gave America so much and paid so much in return. So, what happened to the richest hill on earth? The copper ran out economically before the consequences ran out. When copper prices fell and costs rose, the mines could no longer operate the way they once had. When the pump stopped, water returned to the pit. After decades of mining, that water carried the chemistry of damaged earth. When jobs disappeared, people left. The city lost population, businesses closed, and communities had to adapt to a new reality. When pollution remained, cleanup became a responsibility shared by companies, government agencies, scientists, and the people of Butte. And when outsiders predicted decline, Butte's residents kept rebuilding, protecting their history while creating a different future. Butte's future will not erase its past. Instead, it depends on understanding that past honestly. The Berkeley pit remains a warning, showing what happens when industrial success is measured only by what is extracted. Butte was rich because of copper, but its greatest legacy may be the lessons it offers about workers, communities, and consequences. The richest hill on earth did not simply disappear. It became a living record of America's industrial ambition. It is a story of wealth and sacrifice, innovation and damage, loss and resilience, written into the ground beneath Butte. Butte, Montana was once called the richest hill on earth. Today, it reminds us that every boom leaves something behind. Butte made America richer with copper, but paid a price that still remains today. Subscribe for more untold stories from American history.